Kevin Willmott. How's your year been? Is there a good answer to that question?
Was in the house a lot. Yes, it's not been a bad year for me. I have to say, I was very fortunate that kind of what I do for a living, I have to do at home anyway. So it wasn't. I didn't feel trapped or anything like that, which I know a lot of people kind of feel trapped. But I didn't go out much. So it's good. It's good to be with y'all. It's good to be with y'all.
So we know that you're teaching and you can do that via Zoom from your home. But how do you be a filmmaker from your home during a pandemic?
That slows things down a little bit. I think that was kind of the worst part of it for filmmakers. I've been mainly writing during this period, so it didn't affect me so much. The big effect was that I wrote. I was one of the writers on Five Bloods, and that film was going to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, and the 24th was going to premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and both of those were canceled. So that was probably the big film effect it had on my life was that, and usually there would have been other screenings and more promotion of both of those films that you would have done in public settings like this. And that didn't happen. So I did a lot of Zooming from my office, a lot of Zooming from the office, and which is cool, but it's not quite the same thing.
So you don't have anything under production right now that you were able to work on?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I didn't try. I mean, other people. There were a few films that were made during COVID, and they have a thing called COVID protocol, which is it adds millions of dollars to your budget for the film. And you're like in hazmat suits. And it was serious stuff. And it's like, I've never had that big of a budget for a film I've directed. So, usually the budgets of my films, we could cater something with. So I didn't have that to worry about so much. But yeah, that was. I mean, that's finally changing now. I think I've talked to friends that direct, and it's finally, it's not back to normal yet, but it's moving that direction.
Well, that's good to hear.
It is.
So when we're talking about the film that we'll be screening this evening, the 24th, what does that refer to, and how and when did you learn about the historical events?
Well, I've always been a history nerd, and I learned about the 24th. The 24th is the 24th Infantry, which were the Buffalo Soldiers. The Buffalo Soldiers were the Black Cavalry and the Black Infantry. I grew up in Junction City, and the cavalry was stationed there. So I grew up in my neighborhood. There were Buffalo Soldiers in my neighborhood, and so there was this book called The Black West, and I read this book probably 35, maybe close to 40 years ago. And in that book, there was one photograph of these Buffalo Soldiers. It said the men of the 24th Infantry at Houston, Texas. And it said the largest murder trial in American history. And there were these 63 black soldiers all in a group. And they had armed white soldiers surrounding them with rifles and bayonets. And it's like, why didn't I know something about this? And it's one of those buried moments in our history that we were never taught. And so I researched it and found out the story behind it, and it was connected to what was called the Houston Riot of 1917. And basically, I won't give anything away here, I don't think, but the 24th Infantry was sent to Houston, Texas to guard what was called Camp Logan. And Camp Logan was designed to train soldiers to go fight in World War I. World War I is just kind of starting. And so they send like 700 black soldiers to Houston, Texas, and segregation is really just starting now. You know, Woodrow Wilson has segregated Washington, D.C., and so official segregation is just starting to be a thing. And these guys they had fought with Teddy Roosevelt. They went up San Juan Hill with Teddy Roosevelt. They had fought in the Philippines. They had been stationed in places where they had the benefit of being treated to some degree of respect. And so they go to Houston, and it's just, you know, it's hell on earth. And so bad things happen. I won't go into all of that. I'll let you see the movie for that. But that whole history really hit me. And you know, when you look at that photograph, you see the photograph at the end of the film. When you look at that photograph, you know, I think because I grew up in Junction City and these guys were in my neighborhood. And so when I looked at that photograph, I really connected to these men as not like pieces from a history thing, but real people. And so that's kind of motivating. So I wrote the script like almost 30 years ago. And after we won the Academy Award, it helped my career a little bit. So I was able to finally get financing for the film. But Hollywood doesn't like to make movies like this. I'll be straight up. I mean, these are not comfortable films to make. And this is that, and it's interesting that, you know, we're having this debate in the country right now about this history, you know. And to me, I was with West Studi a couple weeks ago in Tulsa, at the Tulsa Memorial, about the Tulsa bombing and massacre. And you know, these pieces of our history, there's thousands of these stories, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of these stories. And we were never taught any of them. And so I've always felt like this was my kind of mission to, you know, this is my bit in being an American citizen.
So some of the opening scenes show the 24th Regiment marching into Texas. In your research, or maybe just creatively, what would you say is the motivation for Black Americans at the time to serve their country in the war in a nation that is, you know, segregating, discriminating, enacting violence on them? What are some of the thoughts or the history behind that? Sure.
Well, you know, Black folks have always believed in America. I mean, even when we were slaves, Black folks believed in America. And so we've always wanted to. I mean, you know, Abraham Lincoln gives us the opportunity to go back to Africa. And Frederick Douglass and Black leaders at the time said, no, we're going to stay because we've been here as long as you have. And we feel like this is our home just as much as you think it's your home. This is our home too. So we're going to stay and we're going to fight. We're going to make it right for ourselves. And so that's been the attitude of Black folks as a whole since we've arrived here. And Black soldiers, I mean, during this whole period, W.B. Du Bois is really telling Black folks in the nation that, you know, if we fight in the war, we support this war effort, then maybe they will give us our rights. And the men of the 24th specifically believe that if they get to fight in France, that they will see that we are men and that they will give us civil rights. And the term civil rights hadn't really started yet, but that's what they're really talking about. And so they want to go fight in France really, really, really bad. And you really can't move up the ladder in the military without kind of participating in the war. So everybody that's serious about, you know, their career, they want to go fight. And so did the 24. As
a cast and crew on the set, you know, do you have discussions or conversations about, you know, these actions and activities and violence that occurred 100 years ago? And is that a mood on the set, or do you have conversations about that and how it has affected you and what your relationship is to that?
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun things about making movies, is that about history and about things that actually are going on maybe today or in the past, is that, you know, you hopefully you feel like you are contributing to raising the consciousness of folks in one way or another. And on the set, it's the same thing, because some people know the history, but in this case, no one knew the story. Black, white, didn't matter. No one knew the story. And that's kind of my criteria for the movies I try to make, is I try to make movies where they're kind of nuclear secrets in terms of race. And that these things have been specifically buried because they don't want you to know. And those are the things I feel that we desperately need to know. Black folks, white folks, everybody. It's all right to clap. And you know, and when I made CSA, that's when it really started for me, because it's not about trying to make folks feel guilty. You know, no one has to feel guilty about our history. No one. But we have to understand it. And we have to then see how our history affects our lives today. And that's the part that we all have a responsibility for. It's that part of taking this history that you know, affected the men of the 24th, still affecting folks today. I mean, George Floyd is probably will be the legendary example of that now. And seeing how, as much of things have changed, they still stayed the same.
So you mentioned that you wrote the screenplay for this 30 years ago. Do you remember much about so the part of this is, or the tagline of this is inspired by actual events. So when you're adapting, you know, historical facts and historical events into a story for a screenplay, what is your process? How do you take, you know, what part of this would you say is fact, and how do you address that as a filmmaker? I mean, it's not a documentary.
Sure. Well, you know, anytime you adapt, it's like with Black Klansman. Black Klansman is technically a true story too. But there's a lot of things in it that are not true. And so, you know, true stories sometimes have elements of them that don't really, you know, transfer to film very well. So in that sense, you have to adapt. I mean, it's called, you know, adapting. So you're adapting it to film, and you have to change things that make it a better film, and make it a film, really. So the same thing with this. I mean, there are things like, you know, the trial is a big thing in reality. In the movie, you know, I think trials are really, you know, can be kind of, you know, static and in movies. And I wasn't really interested in the trial element of it so much, so I condensed it considerably for the film. And so what I was interested in is what brought them to this event, what led to this event, the buildup that caused the event. And so in that sense, you know, you find, you know, when you're reading, there was kind of one book that was around about the Houston riot. And so I found that book, and then you find as many other things as you can. I found, you know, newspaper articles about it, and so you find anything you can, and you kind of take those elements, and then you're always looking for where the drama is. And so that's where you're targeting, is you're targeting the drama. And so you take the drama, and then you kind of turn it into a movie. You kind of put it in this blender and shake it up, and, you know, hopefully it's a screenplay when you finish.
I have one more question, then we'll go to audience questions. And for those of you who have seen, there's a mic on either side of the house. If you would like to ask a question, please get up and wait by the microphone, and I will call on you in just a moment. If you're unable to stand, please wave your arm and someone will come to you with a microphone. So we want to be sure to take questions from the audience this evening. Kevin, what message, at the end of the evening, how do you want us to feel? What kind of questions, what message do you want us to take from this film as we leave and think about the message of your film?
Sure. Well, the 24th is a complicated story, emotionally, and that was one of the things that attracted me to it, was that it's a complicated story, and that's probably one of the reasons that it was buried, because it's kind of a complicated story in a sense. It's not an easy moral tale in a way, but that's also, I think, is the challenge of what it means to be an American. And the fact that we're debating our history right now is a perfect example of that, because I think we're debating the history because it makes us uncomfortable. And to me, the definition of what it means to be an American, to me, is to be uncomfortable. I think that's what it means to be an American. The more uncomfortable you are, the more American you are. And we're not supposed to be comfortable. You're supposed to be comfortable in your lazy boy chair. But you're not supposed to be comfortable anywhere else as an American. And because Americans have a really difficult kind of status in the world. We believe in democracy, we believe in these things, these big ideas, and they're really difficult ideas. And we are the only really true multiracial democracy. And that makes it even a lot more complicated, because we've done a lot of horrible things in the past, and we're trying to do better things now. And you can't do better things now without accepting the past and embracing the past, and not trying to hide the past, but really kind of embrace it and learn from it and learn never to repeat it again. I mean, literally, my father was born in 1898. He was 60 when I was born. And so that's only like 30 years or so after slavery. That's my father. That's not my grandfather. That's my father. So slavery isn't a long time ago. But slavery, in many ways, is better than the treatment black people received from about 1875 to 1925, 30. Because when blacks were slaves, a black person was worth as much as a Lexus is today when they were slaves. So if you were a slave, you were worth as much as a Lexus. If you had 5 slaves, you had 5 Lexuses. If you had 20 slaves, you had 20 Lexuses. But when slavery is over, black life has no value at all. And that's why Houston, Tulsa, all these horrible massacres all over the country, because black life did not matter. And so that period has been buried in our history books, has been buried. Black people don't know it, white people don't know it, no one knows it. And because it is horribly uncomfortable. And that's why, if we understand it, and we embrace it, and we learn from it, then the George Floyds of the world will stop, and will understand how we got it.
Thank you so much. Do we have some